Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Okay, so this little gnome, I did always do like the example piece, and I did one, and I was really not happy with them, so I kind of redid it. But I want to show you the first one I did, and what I really don't like about it is as much as I put a background color on it. I think we're not even going to put a background because I think it looked better. I was going to show you guys. I put yellow in the background and yeah, it just didn't turn out like I hoped. But I made his hat in green and that mustardy gold and orange. And uh, what I was going to tell you guys is that you can do any color on the stripes that you would like. So on my new one, which I haven't finished him the pumpkin yet, but there's the hat. I think you can see him. I did purple and orange and green. I think it's much more fun. So I'm going to go with that color scheme on my example piece that I'm going to do with you guys. But if you guys want to make, you can make it be any colors on the stripes that you would like. And he's your gnome. I mean, so we're going to have some fun with this. And there's no wrong way to do this. Okay. So we're going to start with the hat. And we're going to do, this one's actually not real hard because we practiced on pumpkins the last time and how to shade those little sections of pumpkin. And we're kind of doing the same kind of thing with the hat, where if you look here, you can kind of see how I did a little darker around the edges. So what I did was I put a light color in there and then let it dry for a bit. And then I came back in again with another layer and just kind of did the edges. And so if the middle is left lighter, it kind of seems to stick out a little bit. So it gives us that 3D effect. And same thing with his nose. And we're going to mix some colors today. So you're going to learn how to make flesh color. And of course, we already did gray on one of them, but you can kind of see on his little nose, like how to shade it. So this is what we're going to do tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. And I was thinking, if you wanted to make a Christmas gnome, like not for tonight, but if you've got the sketch that you can reuse, you could turn the pumpkin into an ornament. Just make it be a circle and have him holding a little Christmas bulb or something. So you could change it and make more of these and make him a Christmas gnome, okay? So got our water and brushes and palette and all that good stuff. So I'm going to start off with a small pointy brush, okay? Kind of small. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah. One of the smaller, but not the smallest, I guess. And I'm going to start off with my purple, and you can do whatever color you want on the hat. And whatever your palette, you may have a lot more colors than mine. I love Halloween colors. I love purple and lime and orange together. I think they're just such a pretty color scheme. No matter what, I really like those colors together. So, but you can make it be black and orange if you want to do, or browns and different fall colors. Okay, so on my stripes, I've got purple, then I have green and orange. So I'm going to skip, green, orange, and then we got purple again. So I'm going to go ahead while I got purple on my brush. I'm going to do all my purples. So kind of go around the outside edge. And then we're going to fill in the middle. Try to stay in the lines if you can. If you get out a little bit, that's okay. You try to stay in there a little within that sketch if you can. Okay, I'm going to wet my brush again a little bit. And so we got purple, then you go green and orange, then we got purple again. So this one's purple again. And I kind of leave my puddle a little bit to the edges where it kind of, the paint collects in a little puddle and makes it a little darker. But what we're going to do is we'll go back through and add that little extra on the bottom later. Like this. Spread this around a bit. And if you want it much more saturated, then you would just do more layers of the color, like let it dry and do another layer, let it dry. And each time you do that, if you get more paint on your brush and not as much water, then like this, we do that, then our paint is much more concentrated and bolder. So I do that. I'm just doing the little edge thing I was talking about. And on the tippy top, I'm just going to do it on the bottom. And then the one we just did, I'm going to get those edges a little bit darker, and underneath the one that's above it, I'll let that go for a minute because we don't want to overwork it. You always got to be thoughtful about that. If you work on something too long with watercolor, the paper could kind of peel up a little bit. So we got purple, and then we go green and orange, and so the last one on the hat is purple. Now you can change the order of this if you want to make your hat with more green or orange or whatever color you're doing. I love getting to kind of be like Bob Ross and do like it's your little world. You can do what you want with it. And these little guys are cute enough that like, well, all the stuff we've done, especially, fall things, if you want to throw those in a little picture frame, and they make nice little decorations. We're just filling that last section in. I need more water. Anytime your paint starts, dragging like that one did a little bit, that means you just don't have enough water on your brush. So I'm going to go back and add some water to the brush, and we can wet this and bring it back to life right here a little bit and move it around. And that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry just a bit, clean my brush, and then we're gonna start doing the green. So in my palette, I have two greens, and they're kind of close in color. Okay, you can see my greens. It's kind of dark. I don't know if you can see them or not, but they're kind of a dark green and a blue green. It's not real bright, so we're gonna make lime green. And what you're gonna do, like the little palette lid, I'm sure your guys' palettes probably have that, right? Have the little depressions in the lid to make a paint palette. So what you're gonna do is have a clean brush and a clean wet brush, and I'm gonna dip it in my yellow. I'm gonna get a lot of yellow on my brush, and I'm gonna move over here to this little palette and deposit that. It's just like I'm painting it in that circle. Then I'm gonna make sure I clean my brush. And now I'm going to go to the green, and I'm going to get the lighter of the two greens that I have. And I'm going to put a little bit of that in with that yellow. And that makes our bright, like neon limey green, okay? Start with your yellow. Whenever you're making colors, start with your lightest color of whatever it is you're mixing. Always start with the light and add the dark to it, because if you try to add, start with the dark and add light to lighten it up, you use a ton more paint. It's just really harder to do, but always remember that, try to do the light color first. Okay, so mixed up my wine. Let's see what we got here. It's pretty bright. If you want it to be more yellow, then what you would do is, wet your brush, go back and grab some more of the yellow and put it into your little mixture that you made, which I just did. And see how much different it changed it. It might need a little more of a yellow green, limey green. One of my favorite colors. It's such a happy color. Lime green. I don't think I would want a room that was lime green, but the color makes me happy in small doses, I guess. So we skip this one because he's going to be orange, and so we come back down. So underneath the purple is the next green. I'll fill him in. Remember to use your pointy little brush so you can get those edges neatly. And so it's orange and then purple. And so the next one under the purple is green again. Mixing colors is a lot of fun. And you should always think about the color wheel. And you may have studied that in school and you may not have yet. But that's one of my favorite things to teach when we talk about color and how color can affect our moods and make us actually happy or sad. And I always talk to my students about how, we don't really pay attention, but to the colors that are around us and how that, someone actually thought, let's use this color because it's soothing, or let's do this because it makes you hungry. And so there's a really fun studying the science of color. I really enjoy when I get to do that. I'm almost ready to do that with my Art 1 kids, so I'm kind of excited. I love doing color theory. Okay, so we got lime greens in there. Now it's time for the orange, or whatever color you want to make the third stripe be. You can leave it white if you like the white with the purple and green, which is kind of cute actually, as it is. But I'm going to do orange because I love this color combo. And if you want pink or whatever, it's up to you guys to do your colors. So my orange is kind of bright. I really like that. I may have it maybe too much paint on my brush, so it's kind of an intense, because you want to have that lighter in the middle. So I just got a little bit of, dip my brush in the water and lightened up my paint a little bit. You want that darkness kind of around the edge, or saturation, I guess is the word. Get that little effect of the hat sticking out in places. You jump down, do the next section. Nice seeing this good, right? How do you hold your paintbrush? I realize I hold mine kind of funny sometimes. Sometimes I hold it like I'm holding a pencil. It depends on kind of the mark I make, but I always kind of rest it on this finger. I don't know, just pay attention. I was just curious, have anybody holds their brush in a different way? Okay, so I had to reload a little more orange. I was running out of paint. So, and I got out of the lines a little bit, but you know what, that's okay. Just a little more paint on my brush. And basically watercolor teaches you patience. It's all about waiting for it to dry and doing the next level, like little sections at a time, layers at a time. It teaches you patience. I think that's one of the reasons it's soothing. You can't really rush it. Okay, and you may need to get clean water at this point. If it's not graying up your paint, it should be fine. So we're going to leave the hat for just a minute. I'm going to come back to it, and we're going to add some little details like polka dots and stuff. But we're going to let it dry. So now the next thing let's make some skin tone colored paint. And we're going to mix in our palette lid just like we did the yellow green. Make sure your brush is clean and wet. And so I'm going to start with just a little bit of orange, just a little bit, and put it in the palette. I got a little spot right here. So I got a little orange in it. I'm going to wet my brush. And now I'm going to do a little pink. Actually, kind of a lot of pink. Wet your brush in between dipping it because you don't want to contaminate the pink with orange. So I'm getting a lot of pink here and putting it over here and mixing it together. Clean my brush. A little bit more pink. I want him to be rosy. And now this is something like I normally say that we don't usually use a lot of white watercolor paint. This time we're going to, so you're gonna make sure your brush is nice and clean and you get some white on your brush, quite a bit. And then you're gonna add that to your pink and an orange mixture. Okay, and if you have a little test paper, which I did somewhere, you can mark, yeah, here it is. You can make a little test mark and see if it's too pink. If it's too pink, you know, you might add a little more white or a little orange, or you can even add a little brown to it if you get the color, till you get the color skin tone that you want. So I'm kind of happy with my pinkish rosy skin tone. So his little nose, we're just gonna paint that circle, leaving the middle of him lighter, okay? So have that paint around the edge of his nose, paint in the shape of his nose. And wet your brush a little bit and just kind of spread out what's in there into the middle. So you want the middle to be a little lighter. We're gonna come back and do another layer of that in a minute like we did before when we were shading pumpkins and stuff. Kind of concentrate it around the edges for a minute. He's got a little rosy nose. Okay, so it's time for beard once we get our nose on there. This guy moves kind of fast, and if I move too fast for you all, please stop me and tell me to say, hold up. Because I see something on the chat. Okay. Yeah, this, if I go too fast, let me know. All right. So to make his beard, we can do it two ways. The first example that I did, I mixed up black and white and made a gray, but I think it was too much gray. Maybe I got carried away with it. So on the second one, I just dipped my brush in a little bit of black and kind of, you know, wet it and spread it around. So I think that's what I'm going to do. If you want to make a gray, and some of you all told me the last time that you already had gray in your palette. So we're just going to kind of outline here his beard. A little bit of black is what I'm doing. I'm not really outlining, but again, trying to kind of draw with our brush, I guess, would say. But with those little curls, and you can kind of accentuate them. So I think if you just use the black and very sparingly in the water, it's a little less intense gray, and you can kind of use I say it all the time, pushing your puddles around to make it look darker in places that you would want it to. This is another area that you may want to even just take your brush and paint some water in it. And then come in with your black and kind of let it go. So I'm making this really super, super light gray because I can always go back and add more. And that's the point. Like when I made the gray with the white and the black, it was kind of opaque. That's what the white does. It makes it not, you can't see through the paint as much when you add white paint to it. Makes it opaque. So we want that ability to layer. So if you do just, you know, a color and thin that color out, then you can always layer it and make it darker. So that's what we're going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I got paint on my pumpkin. Oh no, it's okay though. I'm just using black and a lot of water. Little paint, a lot of water. skip over the pumpkin stem here. Oh, I got really dark right then. And this is what happens if you get super dark. Do not panic. Wet your brush, dab off the excess water, and just take what paint you got there and spread it. And I kind of like when that happens, and that's a technique I use sometimes to create shading. So now it kind of looks like the pumpkin stem is making a shadow against his beard. So that was what Bob Ross would call a happy accident. Right. And do the same thing. Look at that. So what I'm going to do, get some water and come in and kind of spread this around a bit. Look, I got out of the line again. That's okay. His beard kind of comes down all the way around under his shoes even. I've got it sketched his beard all the way down through here. So it's not really his leg there. It's just covered in his long little beard. Okay, so we got this happening here. I'm going to clean that up a little bit, spread that around a little bit. Okay. I have dripped a bit. How we doing? Anybody getting a beard on there? Am I going too fast? If you drip on there by accident, remember you can always kind of get clean water and a paper towel, and sometimes you can get your mistakes to come up. I don't think this one's going to come up. I'm kind of waiting everybody catches up with me. All right, our next step, we're going to do the pumpkin. And you guys know how to do the pumpkin because we did those last week. So that should be pretty easy. I'm going to get a little bigger brush than I was using. It's slightly larger. It's still pointy. You can see that. Still a pointy brush, but a little bit bigger. And I'm just, doing the orange and spreading it around. Make sure that it's darker or more concentrated, where those little segments of the pumpkin, these lines represent the segments of the pumpkin. Fill them in, and we'll come back and add some more color and shading to him in just a minute. Got one little section there. And just kind of keep going onto the next. Do you have a favorite paintbrush? Like I always do. I end up painting most of the painting with one brush. I don't change them real often. But I do have itty bitty teeny weeny brushes for details. And spread my paint around. And you see how I'm kind of leaving the middle a little bit lighter on each little pumpkin wedge or whatever those areas would be. I've got a dark section there, and then spread it out from there. So you just pull that paint from what we already put down, paint around this little mitten and the beard. We'll reload a little bit more paint. You should have more paint near these creases and at the bottom of your pumpkin. So I'm going to go back over here to this first one because it's kind of dry now, and I'm going to do a little bit more towards the bottom. And the reason it's darker on the bottom is that it's fattest in the middle. Oh, look, I'm splattered paint everywhere. Paint water, I guess. But when it's fat in the middle like that, it kind of will cast a shadow on itself. It blocks the light from hitting the bottom of the bucket. The bottom's going to be dark. Now, I mixed up a darker orange because I took a little bit of orange that I've been using. I'll show you on my palette. And I brought it over here, and then I cleaned my brush and I dipped it in red, just a little, and I mixed it with that orange. And I made a red orange or a darker orange. And that's what we're going to go back into this with. Just a little bit of that though. A little bit of that. It's kind of an intense color. So a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of that reddish orange. Just kind of take it in to where we want it darker on our pumpkin pieces. I'm kind of, wiggling my brush around down here towards the bottom a little bit and leaving it like darker on these lines here. And then kind of wiggle it around on the bottom section, see? You're kind of drawing with your paintbrush. A little bit of area there. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I've just got a little water. I'm just kind of smoothing this out a bit. Okay. We've got our pumpkin pretty much done. Now, the stem of the pumpkin, I make brown. It could be green. It could be kind of yellow green. It could be kind of green and brown mixed if you want that really natural kind of olivey green. On my little example piece, I did it as brown. It's whatever you want to make your pumpkin stem be. So I'm going to just do brown. But you can do it, like I said, however you want it to be. I'm just kind of painting it in brown. Using your brush tip. See, I'm using a pointy brush, but I'm barely letting that tip touch the surface of the paper because we want to make a little mark. We don't want to make a big mark. So you don't push down on the brush, it's flatten it out, like flatten it. You know what I meant, right? So we're just like, it's just like barely touching, and we're drawing with this paintbrush. Drawing inside our little stem shape. Oops, I got out of line. It's okay though. We'll make the ends fatter. It's really good at making skinny lines. You can clean your brush a little and get a little bit of black. I mean, a itty bitty. And just do a couple of little black marks. But you gotta just barely let it graze the paper. And it looks like those, the ridges in the stem. Just a couple of little lines. Can y'all see my color's good enough on that? Shake your head if you can. Do you see this on this? You see it good enough? Something off the bottom of that palette stuck on my napkin. That's not good. Okay, his mittens are next, and they can be any color you want them to be. I'm gonna make mine green just because I love that yellow green next to the orange. But if you want his to be brown or black or blue or pink, it doesn't matter. Like whatever color you want to make his little mittens be. And just like we've done everything else tonight, we want to leave kind of the center of the mittens a little lighter than the edges. So I'm going back to my lime green that I made earlier, and see it's dry. My palette's dry, but the wonderful thing about watercolor, you just take a wet brush back to it and it comes back to life. And now these come off, by the way. I didn't just break my palette. You can take those off and move them around. So I'm going to do my green on my mittens. And we can take a darker green and do that little shading thing I was talking about. This dries a bit. A little darker green. Okay. I went back to just the original green that's in the palette, and that's what it looks like. I don't know if I like that or not. Maybe. It's okay. You guys need to tell me what you're going to be for Halloween. I bet there's some creative costumes going to happen. You can unmute and tell me what your Halloween's going to be. Halloween costume. I'll be done in just a minute. Okay. Okay, so we're jumping down to the shoes. Again, they can be any color. I'm going to make the bottom of the shoes black. I'm going to make the top of the shoes purple. But if you want your shoes to be brown or blue or green or pink, doesn't matter, whatever you want. So I'm going to start with my purple and do the top of the shoes first. My janitor is new and he doesn't realize, I guess, that every Tuesday I'm in here doing this little recording. I think I always kind of surprise him. I'm just doing the top part of the shoe and you can't see it. Hang on. See, I just did the top part of the little oval that is the shoe. I'm going to have purple booties on. And then the soles of his shoe will be black. And you can fill that in with black. Get enough water on my brush. But it helps just kind of draw it like an outline and then fill in the middle. Just like your brush would if it was a pencil. Same thing on this other one. And draw it. That's a skill. Man, I can't flatten paint on that. I got it too close to the water tray. That's not good. A skill learning how to pull a line. And whenever I'm trying to make a clean line with a watercolor or even acrylic brush, or acrylic paint rather, I always kind of plant my hand firmly and I only move my fingers and the brush. And whenever you're trying to make a clean line, like a straight line or a curve, like a circle, if you pull the brush down towards you this way, don't paint back and forth and don't paint away from you. But if you start at the top of whatever it is you're painting and you pull it to you, it'll make a clean line. So I keep my hand steady and I just pull that brush down. See, and the only thing moving is my fingers, my whole hand. And that keeps you having a clean edge there. It takes some practice. Man, I have made a mess with splatters. I didn't mean to do it. Okay, don't have a mess like I do. But it's my fault because I kept my paint water too close to my paper, and I guess I drip when I come out of that paint thing. Okay, we're almost finished. He's got details now. And since we've allowed, see how we've worked from the top to the bottom? And so that allows the top to dry fast, and so now we can go back to the top and add to it without overworking that area. So it's always a good advice when you're painting, start at the top and work to the bottom. That also keeps you from kind of getting your arms in the paint, like laying in it, or, I tend to have it all over my hands, but seriously, I always think about that. I always start from the top and work your way down. And that way you won't smear it as easily, things like that. Okay, so what I did on my little gnome example is I made little polka dots in the orange, okay? And you can do stripes on the purple. If you want me to do that on this one too, we'll do stripes and just have some fun with this. Some different little designs in the hat. So for the, let's see, let's make, you want to make stripes in the green? You make stripes in the green. So we made a lime green. So I'll just get a darker green. Straight out of the palette would be okay. I've got this dark blue green in mine. So that's what I'm going to use for my stripes. And we're going to use the pointy brush and not a lot of water. You want to be able to have it, the paint not drip. And I'm going to switch to a skinnier brush for this. You want to use a tiny pointy brush. This one's really good. You can't see it. I'm sorry. This is probably the next to the smallest brush in your set. I'm just going to use that because it makes a tinier mark. And drawing in the shape of the hat, okay, we're going to curve and make just a little stripe in the darker green. Barely let your brush touch. And I don't have enough water. Okay. And just curve it like the hat's shaped. And make a little stripe. And we're going to come down here and just continue in the way the hat is shaped. Kind of go with it here. And make you some little skinny stripes. And you don't have to do that if you want to leave your solid lime green. That's totally okay. I'm just in case you wanted to embellish the hat a little bit. So same thing on this next section of green. And I'm going to try to mark the shape, make the stripe, the shape of the hat, like where it's kind of pooched out. We're going to curve it a little bit. Get near enough water on my brush. Okay. Using the tip of your brush, make some little skinny stripes. I'm getting a little fat. That's okay. Now the hat kind of curves in right here, so we'll curve that stripe in. I think the more pattern on him, the cuter he is. Okay, and here's how you do the polka dot. Clean your brush really good. Use that same small pointy brush, and we're going to do the orange. And you can do the red orange that we made, like the darker orange, which I probably need to mix up a little extra of that. So orange and red to make our darker orange. And you're just going to take the tip of your brush and just touch it to the paint surface. So you're just going to touch, 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 little dots. Don't push it hard. Just let it touch the surface with little polka dots. And see how I'm holding my hand again? I'm just doing my fingers. Just touching that to the surface. Spread them out good. Like, that's the hard part, is sometimes we don't have them spaced out good. If you're doing polka dots, you have to think about spacing. And mine are coming out more like a little stripe. So I can go back and make them a little rounder. If that happens, you can make it a little bit rounder. And if they're not perfect polka dots, that kind of makes it even cuter, I think. And if you don't want polka dots, by all means, you do not have to do them. If you get too big of a hurry, they'll end up looking like a little stripe. Go back and round those out. We got polka dots. How we doing? Everybody good? Can I have a thumbs up? Thumbs up? Yeah, all right. All right. I thought it was going to be done a little earlier, but we're going to be just perfect timing again. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to just get a little black on our brush, use this tiny pointy brush, and we're just going to make some lines in his beard and make a little line for his mouth. So you don't want to, don't want fat lines. You want a little skinny. So wet your brush and kind of, get a little paint on it. Again, we're going with black. Or you could do a gray, a darker gray. Well, even a regular gray, because it's a second layer, so it's going to darken anyway. And I'm just barely going to draw some lines. Okay, and that's a little bit too dark. So what I'm going to do, I'm sorry about that. If it's too dark looking on yours, let's add a little water there and spread that out a little bit. So it's more dark gray than black. So just some little lines in his beard. Look like hair. I got a little too dark with my black, didn't I? I'm just spreading that around, see? And that kind of made it look okay. Same thing on this side. I'm about starting out with black lines, but those are kind of too black. So if we come in with just a little water and spread those out a bit, then it won't look too contrasty on your gray. If you have gray on your palette already, that would be the thing to do here, would be just to use the gray paint. Just want to make those little, marks that would represent the beard hair. It's not too good. Okay, for his mouth, you're going to see like part of his mouth, and it's right here where the pumpkin stem is. under his nose, and you just want to do this little line like that, like half a smile. Just right here, this half a smile, and it's just a black line. Spread these little lines out a bit. And I'm just letting my brush, just kind of flicking it on the surface of this paper. Make super skinny line. Super, super skinny. And this little beard. I'm really in love with the little gnomes this year. I've enjoyed drawing this. I painted some on plywood last year for Christmas and threw them out in my yard. I'm curious to see what colors you all put on your nose. Can I see some of them? Oh, that looks good. Yeah. Oh, I love the rainbow. Yes. Gorgeous. Purple. Oh, these are beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Good job. Yay.
Those are amazing.
Yeah. Richardson. Oh, wow. That's awesome. That was awesome. These are so good. I hope you enjoyed this little gnome tonight. Oh, look at that. Yay. Love it. Love it, Hall family. That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so next week, I think Miss Sarah's wanting to do that rooster. So I think we'll do the rooster next week. Is that okay with you guys? He's got lots of colors and you can be real painterly and we're just going to be real artistic next week, okay? Good job tonight. Put them on the Facebook page so everybody can see them, okay?
Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Beautiful.
What is
Beautiful, beautiful.
What is the Facebook page?
I will send out an email with a link to it. I think it's Hyman Settlement School Traditional Arts. But
Okay.
I'll send you a link to it.
Thank you very much.
Look at all these cute little gnomes.
These are wonderful. You guys have done such a good job. I love it. I love it. Yay. I'm really proud of you all. I really am.
All right.
I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Rooster next week. Next week is Rooster Week. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Bye, Kyron.